Hello, my name is Noah Smith, and I have dedicated my tribute speech today to Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was an intellectual powerhouse full of ideas and creations that bettered ourselves throughout American history. He was not only a great diplomat of our country, but was also an inventing genius and truly changed the outcome of American history and where we are today. This speech is meant to reflect on and show appreciation for Benjamin Franklin's triumphs and accomplishments throughout his lifetime, ranging from January 17th, 1706 to April 17th, 1790. In today's world, we tend to sometimes forget about many of the great things that great people have accomplished. For example, we don't remember the names of those who invented the stoplight or the stop sign or the wheel, or just random things that come into play into our daily lives every single day. Benjamin Franklin was one of the first founding fathers. He was an inventor, genius, publisher, author, scholar, scientist, activist, diplomat, chess player known by first and last name, and probably a few more other things. I could commemorate Franklin for hours to come, but today I've chosen to give attention to his most prominent impacts on our country as a whole. I feel that most people don't know of or don't remember many of the things that Franklin accomplished when he was alive in America, so I am glad to be given the opportunity today to highlight many of the positive impacts that he had on our country. So the first section that I would like to go over includes his inventions. Benjamin Franklin invented the lightning rod in the midst of houses being struck by lightning and burning to the ground. The lightning rod was made to attract the lightning into the metal rod rather than the house itself, so it would be placed on top of the house and it would attract the lightning into the rod, and the rod would absorb all of it, keeping the houses from catching on fire and burning down, being that most of them were made of mostly wood. During this time, hundreds of thousands of houses were burning down because of this lightning, and he created a solution. J. Chaplin, an author who wrote about historic figures, including Franklin himself, added, quote, "Franklin's attendance at the Constitutional Convention was his last major public service. However, his interest in public affairs continued to the end of his life." So he wrote this talking about Benjamin Franklin's activity in the United States and what he contributed to society. And this quote here I enjoyed because I think it does a very good job highlighting not only what he did after he accomplished this, but also his attention to such. Then the second section would be his scripture or writing. Being one of the first founding fathers, he helped create and design the Declaration of Independence, which was in 1776. The impact that this document had on our country is widely known, yet some people are unaware that Franklin contributed to it, at all. People don't know that he was even an author of it. This being said, he started with similar writing pieces and articles before he went to create his own fully published books. Another quote by Chaplin includes, "He became a man of letters in several senses. He was a printer whose successes derived from arranging small lead letters and other sorts to form words onto a page. He wrote a variety of letters signed with his own name, in which he offered his opinions on every topic of contemporary interest." Franklin is also the author of 22 different books and scriptures over his lifetime, covering a variety of different topics and subjects. His most important scripture to date, The Way of Wealth, can still be impactful in today's world, and I also read it myself as I was doing research for this speech, and it had a very large impact on me, and I didn't think it was going to before I read it. This quote I pulled directly from Benjamin Franklin's autobiography that he wrote. He said, "From a child, I was fond of reading, and all the little money that came into my hands was ever laid out in books. Pleased with the Pilgrim's Process, my first collection was of John Bunyan's works in separate little forms. There was also a book of Defoe's called An Essay on Projects, and another of Dr. Mather's called Essays to Do Good, which perhaps gave me a turn of thinking that had an influence on some of the principal future events of my life. A huge portion of education comes from reading and analyzing data, which Benjamin Franklin pushed himself to become really good at, and he also encouraged others to do so as well. I also would like to commemorate Benjamin Franklin for his commitment and service to our country. Being an author, publisher, scholar, inventor, and more really contributes to your academic resume quite a bit. Franklin was always pursuing something new. He always wanted to reach expectations that people insisted he couldn't, and he always wanted to prove people wrong, including himself. During his lifetime, he had ups and downs, getting laughed at by scholars more educated than him, being told that his inventions weren't worthy, effective, efficient, and more. Writing about Franklin in an online article listed on Gale 1 file, author Neoma Foreman wrote, "Franklin's name would almost certainly be on any list of the half-dozen greatest Americans. His face has appeared on postage stamps and on the coins and paper money of the United States. He died in 1790, after a busy and useful life." Franklin never failed to strive for greatness. He always wanted to contribute more, learn more, accomplish more, do more, teach more. His impact on American history is one that can hardly be measured, and it is extremely hard to tell where we would be today without many of his intellectual accomplishments. J. Hershey, a historic writer and author whose work has been published on ProQuest multiple times, stated, quote, "Benjamin Franklin, who became the world's most famous scientist during his life, had only 2 years of schooling. He was a genius, no doubt. More important, he was ambitious." Bringing everything together in this commemoration, there are a plentiful number of accomplishments, doings, writings, inventions, and more of Franklin's successes in life. But the intention here is to highlight and represent the most impactful things that he did. He determined a large portion of American history himself and with others. Today, his face is on the American $100 bill. As most of you probably already know this, people call them Big Bennies. His impact is still widely represented, but goes unspoken about. Through politics, science, writing, and more, Benjamin Franklin changed our country for the better. A truly dedicated academic scholar, an enthusiastic and emotional author, a political powerhouse, a creative genius. What didn't he accomplish in his lifetime? Thomas Humphrey, an EBSCO host, credited and supported author and reporter, quoted, "The cartoon, like his interactions with George Whitefield, reveal how Franklin's individual and collective interests grew out of his mutually exclusive, sometimes conflicting desires." I added this quote because I wanted to highlight a cartoon that Franklin made for himself that represents his personal life and attention to the society he fell into and people he surrounded himself with. If you want to take a peek at that, you can just Google it and you'll most likely find it. It is hard to bring together every accomplishment and virtuous action that Franklin achieved, but highlighting his greatest impact on our country as a whole represents Franklin's tenacity and strength as an individual. History itself would have been much different without his endeavors and accomplishments, and I truly feel that his impact is much larger than we think today.